Hello, I am Jim Stanford. I'm the economist and director of the Center for Future Work. I want to take a few minutes to share with you some exciting findings from a recent research report published by our center on the economic and social benefits of public schools in Australia. Our research shows that adequately funding public schools in line with the school resource standard that was established by governments a decade ago is essential to Australia's future economic and social well-being. Moreover, better resources for public schools will generate enormous gains in Australia's economy and enormous fiscal benefits for Australian governments. So it's not just a cost to allocate these resources to public schools, it really is an investment. Okay, let's take a look at the study. The Case for Investing in Public Schools, and it was co-authored by myself and my colleagues Fiona McDonald and Eliza Littleton. We start the report by reviewing all of the evidence about signs of crisis in Australia's public school system, ranging from the worrisome decline in high school completion rates, which has been occurring for several years now, dating back to 2017, but really declined dramatically and worrisomely in 2022, perhaps as a result of the pandemic and the stresses that students and families and schools experienced. We don't know. What we do know is that less young people are completing high school, and that is going to affect their lives, their families, their communities, and our economy. Our research identified three separate streams of economic benefits arising from well-resourced public schools. The first is the direct economic footprint of the schools themselves, including direct jobs for teachers and support staff and others working in the system, but also spin-off job creation experienced in upstream supply chains and downstream consumer industries that depend on the economic activity of the school system. Secondly, there's a whole category of labor market and productivity and benefits that come from higher school completion rates. People who finish school are more likely to be employed, their productivity is higher, their lifetime earnings will be higher. Finally, there's a whole set of fiscal and social savings that are generated because more people finish school. Less families need income support. They experience lower healthcare costs because the health performance or the health outcomes of people who finish school are superior. Lower expenses in the criminal justice system and other public programs. These can be hard to quantify, but they are very real, and they impact the fiscal balance of governments. So we looked at each one of those three streams. First of all, the direct economic footprint of public schools, close to 300,000 people working in them directly, and then tens of thousands of spin-off jobs, about 80,000 in total, in upstream suppliers and downstream consumer goods industries that depend on the incomes generated by schools. Schools are, in fact, a major and growing industry in Australia's economy, and we should think of it as a growing industry rather than just a government expense. Second stream is these labor market and productivity benefits. The evidence is very clear that finishing high school has enormous impacts on people's employability and earnings. 21% higher earnings for people who finish year 12 and go no further compared to people who didn't finish year 12. Over their full career, $400,000 in additional income. The employment rate for year 12 grads substantially higher than for those who don't finish school. And that does not count the extra benefits of people who first finish school and then go on to higher vocational or university education. Just finishing school alone has an aggregate benefit to the workers who finish school of $22 billion a year, but it also benefits employers because of increased productivity, another $27 billion a year for employers. So put all that together, you're looking at increased employment of 184,000 year 12 graduates compared to if they did not finish year 12, and close to $50 billion a year in additional GDP. Internationally, the evidence is very clear about these labor market, productivity, and GDP gains associated with higher education. We see a clear positive correlation between countries' scholastic achievement as measured by international test scores and their economic growth. Australia should be a leader on both of those counts, but there we are right in the middle of the pack with middle of the road scholastic achievement, and middle of the road economic growth. And improving our public schools with better resources will undoubtedly mean stronger economic performance in the future. That third category of economic benefits are the savings on fiscal and social programs. School completion is strongly correlated with better health outcomes and therefore lower health expenses. It's also correlated with stronger employability and stronger lifetime earnings, therefore less reliance on government income support programs, whether that's job seeker during their careers or the age pension when they retire. And many other social and fiscal costs are also reduced when the population is better educated, better employed, and healthier, including the criminal justice system. These effects are hard to measure, but they are real, and there are many international studies indicating the scale of these fiscal and social savings. Now, our report, after identifying these benefits from better funding of public schools, said what would happen in Australia if, in fact, we lifted resourcing of public schools to match that school resourcing standard level that was specified a decade ago. At present, public schools are underfunded to the tune of about $6.6 billion a year compared to what they should be if that SRS standard agreed to by the federal and state governments was actually lived up to. And that includes various kind of phony accounting measures that governments have used, like this so-called capital depreciation tax that reduce the apparent commitment that state governments should be making to the system. What would happen if, in fact, we lived up to the level of funding specified in the SRS? Well, all three of those channels of economic benefits would be activated, and we would see improvements in all of them. So our research goes through and identifies how much additional GDP would be resulting from the increased footprint directly of public schools. What would be the long-term benefits from labor market and productivity improvements resulting from higher school completion? And what would be the savings to government from those social and fiscal impacts, everything from healthcare to criminal justice to income support programs? Add them up, and we're looking at, over time, improvements in economic output, incomes, and fiscal savings close to 1 full % of Australia's GDP, between $18 and $25 billion a year, once those effects have been fully felt in the economy. Another implication of this is that governments themselves benefit from the stronger economic and fiscal performance arising from better funding of public schools. As noted, it would cost $6.6 billion estimated at present to reach that SRS funding standard for public schools, but governments are going to get money back because our GDP is higher and fiscal costs for other programs for government are lower. And we worked through all of those effects. And again, once all three channels of those social and economic benefits are activated, governments end up making money off of the deal, between $9 and $14 billion a year in extra revenue to all levels of government arising from the economic and social impacts of improved school completion, and a net fiscal gain once those benefits have been harvested of between $3 and $7 billion a year. So this really is not a cost, this is an investment. For more details on the methodology and the findings of this research, please visit our website, futurework.org.au, and find the study, The Case for Investing in Public Schools. Just to conclude, it is clear that education is in a crisis in Australia. Our scholastic achievement is failing. The people hardest hit by it are the young people who need the public school system to enhance their opportunities to education and lifelong career prospects. Finally, meeting the standard of funding specified in the SRS is critical to stopping the decline in high school completion, reversing it, and making sure that every student in Australia has access to the high quality education that they and our economy need for the future. We've been waiting a decade for that. The longer we wait, the further off are those benefits. So let's do it now.